Hello again, this is UML Operator. All right, let's get started. In our last session, we built out 3 simple tables, right? We just added some key values to help with connectivity as we're joining these tables together as we progress. In the second iteration, what we're doing is we're going through, you can see we have defined the data model, what we're attempting to do. We've added some notes to each one of the tables to explain what they are. And we started adding some elements, some additional elements in here in the order table in order to get started and understand how we're going to pull all this together. As we're adding or managing our attributes, our columns in each one of our tables, I'm going to go ahead and just double click in here. You can go to the columns and constraints dialog box. So here's your constraints and indexes. Here's your columns. You can see in the order ID, we've set the PK to start at number 1 and increment as we did. But the important thing is we started to define for our data dictionary what each one of the elements are. We did that as we added the billing ID, the shipping ID, the create date, and the payment method. Now, these are just the team putting together their thoughts, basing it off of requirements that have been provided as they're building out their data model. Now, everything that we write inside each one of these attributes is going to print out in the DDL. So just be mindful of that. Don't type war and peace in here, just short phrases, all right? So things like, we may do something, or we may change to tracking ID. These are just notes we're writing at the attribute level. Now in Sparx, what you can do is you can go to discuss, and with discuss turned on, you're able to select tables and hold an open discussion here in Sparx SQL database on each one of the elements. All right, so this one's blank, but we started a conversation on the order table. So you could also put your notes in here. If you're logged into cloud, which I am not right now, you can take advantage of journal. You could take advantage of review, all right? So that's just another option as you're going through design for building out your data model as a team. Also, we took advantage of Sparx for writing notes at the connector level, right? And again, short notes. You'll see this in a moment when we go rerun the DDL. So we've had some changes there. And since day 1 into this second iteration of defining our data models, building our data models. As for developing requirements, let's just go into the order table. I'm going to go ahead and double click to open this up. I could have also hit Alt-Enter to open up the properties. If we go into requirements, we have the ability to define requirements for each one of these elements. Now you could define the requirements outside of the element and then draw realization to each one of the elements, but I'm going to hit Alt-Enter as I select this, and we're going to bring up the property. We go into requirements, you can see the team started building requirements for each one of the elements, and you can build as many as you want. And then at a later time, you can right click on this and you can move these external to another namespace or package where you're managing your requirements. The other powerful thing that the team can do when they're in each one of the elements is build scenarios around the elements. So you can define the scenario here if you wish. We're going to go to process order, hit the editor, and bring up the scenario editor. In this particular case, the team went through and they put this order table in a scenario from the session starting down to submitting the order. And they included an alternate path right here. You can see it 3A, and we can double click on that and you can see they define that particular path. So from here, the team is able to go back and run activity diagrams on this model or other diagrams to simulate the scenario they just built, test the use cases that are being applied to the particular scenario or objective that the team is collaborating on. Let's go ahead and run an activity diagram, auto-generate an activity diagram using Sparx. I'm just going to go to the first one, activity. And I usually, if I run it once, I can either overwrite if I'm making major changes, or I can synchronize elements in an existing diagram. I usually synchronize after I do my initial build, and I want to preserve the layout because I make changes in the layout. We're going to go ahead and hit OK and run this, and it is done. All right, so it took the scenario and any updates. Here's the alternative flow here for new customer all the way down to end. So it builds that. I'm going to go ahead and hit close, and we're back to the scenario builder. The other thing you can do is auto generate test cases. So we're going to hit this drop down here. You can do horizontal layout, vertical layout. You can do internal test cases and external test cases. Let's do an internal test case. So it went through, ran an internal test case on this particular scenario. So what I want to do is I want to bring test cases out. I keep it in the lower right. Let's just drag it out here in the center. So it automatically builds the test case for the basic path, right? The other paths and the return. So you're able to go into this. It builds the start scenario for the testers, acceptance criteria, and all of that. Starts to build out all of that. When you go to run the test, the day it was run, by whom, its status, whether it passed, failed, deferred, or was canceled, those kind of things. So it builds your test cases out for you in Sparx for each one of the scenarios, for each one of the tables or elements that we're building around. This is one of the primary reasons for doing data modeling up front in the beginning of the project. So I'm going to drag notes out here. Let's just put it right here in the right. So you can see it built out the notes for the testers so they understand what's going on. It built out the test scripts. So we'll just select the first one that steps the tester through. Again, you have your input, your acceptance criteria, and your results as the tester is processing. You can see this basic path test has not been run yet, neither has new customer, but it auto generates all of this for you based on your scenario. So they're able to understand what you're trying to accomplish in your data modeling, in your project and your code development as you're getting started in any effort. All right, the next step is very important and probably should have been doing it throughout this demo more often, but after every iteration, you want to version or baseline the package. So I happen to be calling this package day 3. I'm going to hit Control Alt and B. You all have received a video previously on versioning and baselining, so you should refer back to that. I'll try to put the link in this video for that. We're going to create a new baseline. We're going to call it 0.01 since it's the first one. And there it's running right now, and it is done. So we've got a baseline on this, and if we make any changes, we can always revert back. So if I hit Control Alt B again, we can always restore back if we made a mistake. We can show differences between iterations or sessions or versions, and we can do lots of other things I talk about in that video. So go ahead and close this, and let's go ahead and run a report, see what we look like. Okay, for reporting, we can select the package we want to report on. We can go to Publish, and we can select Build Report or Report Builder in the Model Reports group. Or let me close this. You can hit Shortcut key, Function key 8 or F8, and then we'll also bring up the same dialog box. We're going to go ahead and accept the package name as our report title, and we're going to choose Data Modeling Report out of the system templates that are available to us. So Data Modeling Report, you can test out other, like for instance, Audit Report, Detailed, Test Reports. You can test those out, but we're going to run Data Modeling Report. Let's go ahead and hit Generate. It's writing to the destination. We're going to output the file, and it is done and ready to view. We're going to select View and view it using the internal viewer. So we're going to hit View, and this is what a report looks like. All right, so the title of the package. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to click on that. And other information. There's our diagram. Here's all of our notes we added in for each one of the elements, and then our test diagram, etc. All right, so this is our first model report. Let me go ahead and close, And the next thing we're going to do is actually generate this schema. So for the DDL, data definition language, we're going to go to develop. Under data modeling group, we're going to go to generate, and we're going to generate a DDL, a schema is what I call it, or a SQL for all three of our tables in this demonstration. We're going to accept the path and the name that took the package name. You can name it anything you want. I'm going to go ahead and hit generate. It is done. Let's go ahead and hit view. Right, and make it close. Now, one of the things that you notice in this iteration of the DDL or schema or SQL is that all the notes we put in have been added. So they're all defined, all right? And this becomes very important later on after you clean it up, that you use this to build your data dictionary, because this is us explaining as a team everything that's going on in this data model between these three tables. So Sparx does all of this for you when you're generating your DDL. All right, we're in Microsoft SQL Studio. We have loaded our Sparx SQL from our modeling. We're in our company demonstration database. Here are the three tables we created earlier, and we made some changes. So what we want to do is run this, and you can see the SQL setup to do your drops and then do your creates. All right, and that's going to bring in all our notes and hopefully set our identity correctly, another thing that we had changed. All right, so go to the top of the SQL. Let's hit execute. It ran successfully. Let's run a refresh. There we go. Let's just test one, right? Normally look at all of them. We're going to go to design, and when we bring this up, we should see our descriptions come in. We should see our identity specification. Let's expand this. Yes, great. Yes, one, C's correct. So everything's done. Our nulls, not nulls, are all set on our new fields. As you're going through your fields, here's all the descriptions we added. It's going to show up when we do our data dictionary extract. So looking good. Let's roll over and close this video. Okay, by now you should be getting a grip on model-driven data design using Sparx Enterprise Architect. And these practices could be used by other modeling tools. I just find that Sparx Enterprise Architect is the best modeling tool in my tool belt. In this session, we extended from the data models that we built in part 1. If you haven't watched that, I'll include a link so you can. We added new columns and notes as we extended our tables. We went through and showed how requirements development can add in the development and design of your data models. We developed user scenarios to prove and show how the data models may interact with the system or systems. We auto-generated activity diagrams from those scenarios, and we auto-generated test cases from those activity diagrams and those scenarios. We baselined our work so that we can maintain versions and understanding where we are when we're stepping through our model-driven data design. We generated our data definition language, or DDLs, for our schemas to be deployed in a real SQL Server environment. I hope this session and these series are helping you proceed in model-driven anything. As we go forward, we will continue to use maybe these data models, but data models in general, as we're doing code development, model-driven development, and we're doing model-driven user experience or UI design. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Click on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we're publishing videos. I look forward to seeing you in those sessions. Thanks very much for watching. And again, happy modeling.